Whoa, what the fuck, man? Okie dokie.
Okay. Show me.
What is up, YouTubers? GepRC in the house. Thank you very much for tuning in. And what I have here is the GepRC Mark IV 5-inch freestyle quadcopter. And in this video I'm going to give you my final review, my final thoughts on this quadcopter. Is this something you should consider? I've done a couple of videos on this quadcopter already, and actually I'll have a link to my playlist of GepRC videos in the description of this video. Go check it out. The most recent videos of that list are about this GepRC Mark IV. So again, final review. What are the pros and cons of this GepRC Mark IV? Here we go. First thing of note is that this GepRC Mark IV is available as a 4S and a 6S quadcopter. I'll have links to both of those in the description down below, and you'll be helping out the channel by using those links very much in advance. That'll go to fund future review items for this channel. So again, thank you in advance. I have the 6S version here, and I'd say 6S is in 2020 is better unless you have a lot of 4S specs. So in my mind that's the deciding factor. Again, if you already have a lot of 4S specs, probably the 4S version would work out best for you. Otherwise, I definitely go for the 6S version. The amps will be lower, and with that the electronics will be happier, as in live longer, and your flight times will improve. So again, I'd go for the 6S version. And apart from that, this quadcopter is available as a plug-and-fly, so without a receiver. I have the version with the FrSky RXSR receiver here, and there are a couple of other receiver options available. FlySky, Crossfire, no R9 I think, but check out the product pages to see what's available at this time. So again, I've done multiple videos on this quadcopter already, so if you want flight demonstrations, go check out my playlist with GepRC videos. There'll be a line of sight test video in there, and FPV videos too. So more than enough for you to see how well this quadcopter actually flies. Again, in this video I'm just gonna give you my pros and cons and tell you whether you should consider this quadcopter at all. So let's kick off with the pros, why don't we? The first pro on this quadcopter is actually its frame. It is available separately, this frame, so if you are planning to build a quadcopter, it might be an option. I've had a lot of people tell me that this is a good frame to use on builds. And in my experience, it is. It is a stiff frame, and I haven't had horrible crashes with this frame, so is it indestructible? I have no way of telling, but I liked flying this quadcopter. It makes for a precise flying quadcopter, and it's easy to work on, not unimportantly. It is a pretty basic setup, right? A bottom plate, arms, and a brace, and a top plate with standoffs in between. So pretty basic, and that makes for, again, an easy platform to work on, which is nice. So that's the first pro of this quadcopter, its frame. The second pro of this ready to fly is that it is actually pretty much ready to fly. You have to stick on the propellers, and let me see, yeah, the FPV antenna you have to screw on, and I had to poke these antenna tubes in place, and that was mostly it. There was one caveat to that, more on that in the cons of this quadcopter. But again, the basic setup was pretty much ready to fly. The Betaflight setup was good. There were actually flight modes. The OSD was set up well, and all UARTs were set up correctly. There were no glaring issues with the beta set setup at all. Mostly just preference things like the OSD, for instance. So again, pretty much ready to fly out of the box. Especially, of course, if you get the one with the receiver in it. I already mentioned it, but this is an easy quadcopter to work on. Not in the least because the stack is pretty simple. It's a 2-layer stack and that includes the VTX. Again, that makes working on this quadcopter easy, and hopefully you can actually see that the FPV camera is plugged in. So there's hardly any soldering to this quadcopter at all. Again, easy to work on this quadcopter. And apart from the frame, I think these motors, these GepRC 2306.5 motors, are the star of the show. Somehow they perform well, so as in provide good thrust, but also the entire setup is pretty efficient. Even with a heavy GoPro 8 on the quadcopter, I got reasonable flight times, which is again the great performance and efficiency. That's a nice combination, of course. And the quadcopter comes with 3 sets of these GepRC branded propellers. I have no idea who makes these, but they actually work out pretty well. I've had GepRC quadcopters with these propellers in the past. Those were grey, but I was surprised then about these propellers, and again now that I fly this Mark4, these actually work out well. And with that, of course, it's nice to get 3 sets of these propellers. So yeah, you don't have to run out and get yourself some actually usable propellers. These work out well. So this quadcopter comes with the GepRC camera, and well, like I said in my unboxing of this quadcopter, that's a crowd favorite, right? And yeah, in my FPV flights with this quadcopter, it worked out well. It's a pleasure to fly a quadcopter with this camera. In the past there have been quality issues with these cameras. Yeah, this one worked, so that's all I can tell you about this FPV camera from GepRC. Worked out well, pleasure to fly with. The last pro on this quadcopter is a personal thing, but I think it looks great. With the black frame and red accents, and they've done that very consistently. Even the grommets in the stack are red, and all TPU parts are red, the propellers are red, well, purplish red. So very, very nice. Yeah, and again, the camera also red. So it looks nice. The frame itself looks pretty aggressive, if you will. So goldish screws, very, very nice. Definitely a pro of this quadcopter in my humble opinion. So things are looking good for the GepRC Mark4 so far, right? Yeah, so there must be cons, and surely there are. So, and the first one is that some of the components of this quadcopter are a bit outdated. Outdated might not be the right word, but not super duper modern. For instance, it has an F4 flight controller. That's not a horrible thing, and it flies perfectly with that flight controller, but still, it's not an F7 flight controller. However, the 4-in-1 ESC is a BL Heli S ESC, and in 2020, 5-inch quadcopter GepRC, that kinda should have been a BL Heli 32 4-in-1 ESC. In my humble opinion, of course, but well, tell me in the comment section below. The entire stack was actually available last year as well. So yeah, that is a little bit, well, again, outdated. It's not the latest and greatest. More on that in a second, but that definitely has a reflection on what I think the worth, the value of this quadcopter actually is. More on that in a second, but tell me what you think in the comment section below. The second con of this quadcopter is definitely an important one. Mine came assembled incorrectly. You might be able to see that the stack screws, it has metal screws going through the entire stack, which is actually a pro. Excellent work, GepRC. But you can see the screws sticking out at the top, and that wasn't the case when I got this quadcopter, resulting in far too wobbly a flight stick. And that makes the quadcopter hardly fly at all. It flew horribly. Yeah, it definitely didn't fly right out of the box. I had to tighten all these 4 screws. Now, I've been deliberating whether I should, well, put a lot of emphasis on that in my final review. So in this video, it is a weird mistake. It is easy to fix at no cost to the end user. Also, when you try and fly this quadcopter, it's instantly apparent that there is that mistake. So you wouldn't go out to the field and actually fly the quadcopter. You'd instantly see that something's wrong, and in several of my videos I mentioned it. So yeah, most people buying this quadcopter should know how to fix it when they see that issue. It is, however, a strange assembly mistake. The actual screws could have been 3 mm shorter. So it actually looks as if they haven't even test flown these quadcopters. That's a weird thing to have happen. Is that due to the coronavirus? Maybe. I don't know, but it's definitely weird. They could have used shorter screws, and they would have if they had test flown this quadcopter. Yeah, so you tell me in the comment section below. It is a weird finding, especially on a GepRC. Most GepRC's fly pretty well right out of the box. I'm sure you'd agree. But again, it can be easily solved at no cost. Just tighten these screws until you see the grommets bulge out a little. So once you see that these grommets tension up, and you will be able to feel that the stack is a lot tighter, more rigid as well. And finally, you'll also see that your quadcopter actually flies. So it's not a horrible thing, but it's a weird thing to see in a GepRC. I guess that speaks for the brand, but against this quadcopter. Okay. Next con of this quadcopter is the power leads. And I must say that the capacitor, it does come with a capacitor, kinda protects the power leads. They can't be pulled against the carbon fiber much, but sideways they can. I'd bring out these power leads on the side over here. And actually in a lot of previous GepRC's they had these power leads come out at the side of the frame. Oh well, I guess they've done this to make the quadcopter look symmetrical. It looks better in the pictures, right? But yeah, okay. And I haven't had an issue with it. But especially if you crash, there is the potential of you cutting into these wires and then shorting out on the frame. It's not super duper this. I wouldn't do this myself. One other weird thing on this GepRC Mark IV is that it doesn't come with an action camera mount. Maybe you've had the GepRC Mark II or are familiar with the GepRC Mark II. That one actually came with 2 different camera mounts. One carbon fiber version and a TPU printed version. And yes, there are camera mounts available for this frame, but none come with this quadcopter. Especially at the price this quadcopter costs, it should have come with some general purpose TPU printed camera mount, in my humble opinion. The next con is about the installation or configuration of this receiver, the RXSR receiver that came in my quadcopter. Now this is a common thing on a lot of RTF quadcopters, or bind and fly I should say quadcopters. The telemetry wasn't set up. Actually it's simply connected with 3 wires, so power, ground and S-bus. And the reason for this is that they don't want to have separate configurations for every version of this quadcopter. It simply has one setup in Betaflight for S-bus. If they'd run extra wires for the telemetry or maybe F-port, that would screw up the single template or Betaflight setup for this quadcopter. So it would then make the quadcopter actually more expensive to produce. So I can understand the why, but yeah, you're paying for an RXSR receiver, you should get telemetry. This way it might be a nice job for a rainy day to well, reconfigure that setup, rewire it, I should say for F-port, or add an extra wire for telemetry. And the last con, we are already at the last con for this GepRC Mark IV, is its price. Now, I just looked at the price and it's on offer at this moment. At this point in time, the price is actually correct. In my humble opinion, with the slightly outdated electronics and it not coming with any kind of camera mount for an action camera, it should be approximately a $200 quadcopter. That would make it an excellent value proposition for 2020 in my humble opinion. It's a proven brand or a well-known brand, GepRC, slightly again outdated electronics, but that would be great if the price would be nice and low. And nice and low for this quadcopter would be $200 and below. Again, at this point in time it's actually on offer, so maybe you should check that out. When I bought it, it was like $220 I think. Actually it was 210 euros. But okay, over $200, and for this package I'd say that's a little bit too much. So guys, those were the pros and cons in my humble opinion, of course, of the GepRC Mark IV. Should give you more than enough ammunition to decide whether this quadcopter is for you. To add to that, however, who do I think would be happy with this quadcopter? Well, first of all, if you are a GepRC fan, I think you should definitely at least consider this quadcopter. Very nice flying quadcopter. I enjoyed flying this quad for sure. Secondly, if you are a basher / freestyle pilot and don't want to build something, I think this is an excellent option. Again, if the price is right, so maybe look out for deals or when it's on offer. But if you are a freestyle pilot, if you want to capture nice footage, freestyle flights or cinematic things, this quadcopter will work out for you. If you are left with questions, however, don't hesitate to ask. Comment section below. I'll be happy to answer you, and that's it for now. I don't want to waste more of your time than I already have. Catch you on the next video. Bye bye.